Hey, Spy Ward Story viewers! Before we dive into today's story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and tell us where in the world you're watching from. Today, we bring you a spy story so shocking, so cinematic, and so meticulously real that it seems almost like fiction, but every detail is grounded in historical fact. The world of espionage is often hidden behind shadows, whispers, and coded messages. But the story you're about to hear exposes one of the most daring, clever, and consequential spies in modern history, whose actions shaped the course of nations without the world ever knowing his name at the time. This is the story of Richard Sorge, a man whose life was a labyrinth of danger, deception, and audacious intelligence operations, and who became a silent architect of history at a time when every secret could mean the difference between life and death for millions. Born in 1895 in the cosmopolitan city of Baku, then part of the Russian Empire, Richard entered the world in a German-Russian household where intellect and curiosity were prized above all. His father was a railway engineer, precise, disciplined, and deeply involved in the industrial developments of the era, while his mother was cultured, attentive, and instilled in young Richard a love for learning, philosophy, and politics. From his earliest days, Richard was fascinated by the mechanics of human societies, the way governments functioned, and the hidden forces that drove nations into conflict. He displayed a remarkable ability to read people, anticipate intentions, and think several steps ahead, qualities that would later become invaluable in his career as a spy. As he grew older, the world around him was shifting violently. The outbreak of World War I engulfed Europe in chaos, and Richard, like many of his generation, found himself drawn into the maelstrom of history. He enlisted in the German army, entering the trenches where the horrors of modern warfare were revealed with brutal clarity. The mud, the blood, the constant threat of death, and the inefficiency of command structures left an indelible mark on him. He was wounded in battle, but it was not just the physical scars that remained. It was the understanding that information, timing, and foresight could have saved countless lives. Richard witnessed firsthand the devastating consequences of miscommunication, delayed intelligence, and political blindness, lessons that would guide his later espionage career. The aftermath of the war saw Germany plunged into political turmoil. The German Revolution of 1918 overthrew the monarchy, and the subsequent Spartacist uprising challenged the very fabric of society. Richard, already politically conscious, was drawn to radical ideas, particularly those advocating systemic change and social justice. In his studies, he immersed himself in the works of Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, exploring the principles of communism and revolutionary theory. He was captivated not only by the ideology, but also by the strategic thinking it demanded, recognizing that political movements were as much about organization, discipline, and intelligence as they were about rhetoric and ideals. By the early 1920s, his political engagement and analytical mind brought him to Moscow, where the fledgling Soviet state was consolidating power and establishing sophisticated intelligence networks. In 1924, Richard was recruited by the Soviet military intelligence, the GRU, a decision that would transform his life. His training in Moscow was rigorous and comprehensive. He studied cryptography, surveillance techniques, tradecraft, and the subtleties of maintaining multiple cover identities. He was taught how to blend into societies seamlessly, to extract information without arousing suspicion, and to manipulate contacts to gain the maximum advantage. These skills were not theoretical. They were drilled into him daily in simulations and real-life exercises that tested both his intellect and his nerve. Once his training was complete, Richard embarked on his first overseas missions. He was sent to Scandinavia and England, where he monitored political groups, gathered intelligence on the shifting alliances in Europe, and reported on developments that could affect Soviet strategy. These missions required exceptional subtlety. He had to maintain his persona as a neutral observer while penetrating circles that were deeply suspicious of foreigners. In London, his first major operation encountered serious challenges. British intelligence detected anomalies in his communications and operations, forcing him to abort the mission and return to Moscow. This early failure did not discourage him. Instead, it honed his skills, teaching him the critical importance of patience, observation, and the use of indirect methods to gather intelligence. Back at the 4th Department of the GRU, Richard reviewed the mistakes of his London mission and strategized for future assignments. It was during this period that he cultivated an extraordinary ability to manage networks of agents, including forming close working relationships with women who would become his operatives and confidants. Names like Agnes Smidley and Ursula Kaczynski became part of his covert network, each playing a role in ensuring that Richard could operate across borders without detection. By the late 1920s, Richard's reputation within Soviet intelligence was growing. His understanding of European and Asian geopolitics, combined with his proven ability to maintain deep cover and manage agents, effectively positioned him for a much more daring assignment, one that would take him to the far reaches of Asia and place him in the center of some of the most significant intelligence operations of the 20th century. In 1930, Richard was sent to Shanghai, China, during a period of intense turmoil and conflict. The Chinese Civil War raged between nationalist and communist forces, while Japanese expansionism threatened regional stability. In Shanghai, Richard navigated a treacherous landscape of warlords, foreign concessions, and espionage operatives from multiple nations. His mission was to gather intelligence on Japanese and Chinese political movements, military deployments, and potential threats to Soviet interests. Here, he demonstrated an uncanny ability to blend into environments that would have overwhelmed ordinary operatives. He built his first significant spy network, cultivating informants, analyzing local and regional events, and establishing secure communication channels with Moscow. The challenges were immense. Richard had to maintain multiple cover identities, ensure the loyalty and discretion of his agents, and constantly anticipate the actions of foreign intelligence services, particularly Japanese and British operatives who were active in the region. Despite these obstacles, his intelligence gathering in Shanghai was remarkably successful, providing the Soviet Union with invaluable insights into Japanese expansionism and regional political dynamics. Richard's success in Asia led to further recognition upon his return to Moscow in 1933. The Soviet leadership rewarded him for his achievements, though the political environment in Moscow was fraught with suspicion and intrigue. Even among his own colleagues, distrust simmered, and Richard had to navigate internal politics as carefully as he did foreign operations. Shortly thereafter, he was assigned to Berlin, where he developed a cover strategy that involved integrating into the Nazi Party as a way to gather intelligence on German military intentions and diplomatic strategies. From Berlin, he prepared for his next daring assignment, infiltrating Tokyo, the heart of Japan's political and military establishment. By now, Richard had honed his skills in surveillance, agent management, covert communication, and strategic reporting. He understood the immense stakes of his work. The intelligence he gathered could prevent wars, save countless lives, and alter the balance of global power. His early life experiences in Baku, the battlefields of World War I, the political upheavals in Germany, and his missions in Europe and Asia all converged to create a spy of extraordinary competence, daring, and foresight. Richard Sorge's journey from a curious child to a master spy was marked by discipline, intellect, courage, and an unyielding commitment to his cause. Every decision he made, every risk he took, and every report he sent back to Moscow was part of a larger strategy that would eventually place him at the center of some of the most consequential espionage operations in modern history. His story was no longer just about survival or ideology. It was about shaping the course of nations from the shadows, understanding that information was the most potent weapon of all. In the wake of his early missions across Europe, Richard Sorge found himself on a path that would test the limits of espionage, loyalty, and human endurance. His first major assignment outside the Soviet borders took him to Shanghai in 1930, a city teetering between the chaos of the Chinese Civil War and the looming threat of Japanese expansion. Shanghai was a hub of political intrigue, a place where warlords, foreign consulates, and secret societies intersected. Sorge's objective was clear: gather critical intelligence on Japanese movements, the unfolding conflict in China, and the networks that could influence the region. He immersed himself in the expatriate German community and local political circles, building contacts with individuals who could provide him with information both subtle and decisive. He learned to blend seamlessly into the social fabric of the city, a skill that would define his later successes and dangers. Establishing a network of spies was essential, and Sorge demonstrated an unparalleled capacity for recruitment and management. He identified individuals with access to political and military information and assessed their reliability with meticulous care. Among them were women who played crucial roles in intelligence collection. Agnes Smidley, a German expatriate, and Ursula Kaczynski, known by multiple aliases, became indispensable to Sorge's operations. Through these agents, he could observe, report, and influence events from behind a veil of secrecy. His ability to inspire loyalty in a time of fear and uncertainty was a testament to his charisma, strategic thinking, and deep understanding of human psychology. The increasing threat of Japan during 1931 and 1932 made Sorge's work all the more urgent. Japan's occupation of Manchuria signaled the rise of an aggressive military force, with far-reaching implications for the balance of power in East Asia. Sorge's intelligence efforts focused on tracking Japanese troop movements, political alliances, and internal discussions regarding military campaigns. His reports, encoded and sent to Moscow, provided the Soviet leadership with unprecedented insight into Japan's intentions. Yet, even as he delivered precise and actionable intelligence, Sorge had to navigate a landscape rife with suspicion, rival spies, and the ever-present risk of exposure. The geopolitical tension of the time made every action, every contact, potentially life-threatening. By 1933, Sorge returned briefly to Moscow, recognized for his exceptional contributions to Soviet intelligence. The reports he had sent from Shanghai were meticulously analyzed, and the accuracy of his predictions enhanced his reputation within the GRU. He received commendations and resources to further his work, though recognition came with its own burdens. The Soviet system, while appreciative of results, demanded absolute secrecy and unquestioning obedience. Sorge now faced the delicate challenge of balancing operational efficiency with personal survival in an environment where any misstep could result in suspicion or worse. Berlin became the next stage for his intricate cover strategy. With the Nazi Party consolidating power, Sorge understood the value of embedding himself within the political and diplomatic circles of Germany while maintaining loyalty to Moscow. He devised a cover that allowed him to operate as a journalist and political commentator, giving him plausible reasons to travel and interact with key figures. His ultimate goal was to reach Tokyo with the necessary credibility and contacts to execute his mission. The Berlin period honed his ability to live a double life, mastering the subtle art of deception while maintaining the outward appearance of normalcy. By late 1933, Sorge established his permanent station in Tokyo. Here, he expanded his network, recruiting agents who could penetrate Japanese military, political, and diplomatic circles. High-ranking contacts, including Admiral Venkika and Ott Chun, provided access to critical information about Japanese strategic planning. Sorge's intelligence gathering required delicate manipulation, patience, and a keen understanding of the complex web of Japanese bureaucracy and hierarchy. His network operated in constant secrecy, often using coded messages, dead drops, and clandestine meetings to avoid detection by Japanese authorities. The precision and discipline of his operations in Tokyo were unprecedented and became the cornerstone of his legendary reputation. One of Sorge's most significant successes came in 1936 with the acquisition of documents related to the Anti-Comintern Pact, a treaty between Nazi Germany and Japan. This intelligence, meticulously smuggled and sent to Moscow, offered the Soviets critical insight into the formation of a military alliance that could threaten Soviet interests in East Asia and Europe. Sorge's skill in obtaining sensitive information without arousing suspicion demonstrated not only his resourcefulness, but also his understanding of the stakes involved in global politics. The documents allowed Soviet planners to adjust their strategies, prepare defenses, and anticipate the moves of their adversaries in ways previously unimaginable. Despite these achievements, Sorge's life was far from simple. Between 1938 and 1940, he faced profound challenges in maintaining his double identity. Suspicion from Moscow, doubts about his loyalty, and the strain of constant deception weighed heavily. Personal struggles compounded the pressure. Excessive drinking, sexual affairs, and the psychological toll of living a life constantly on the edge created inner turmoil. Sorge understood that his personal choices could jeopardize the entire network, yet the isolation inherent to deep cover operations made human connection both dangerous and essential. This duality of existence achieving monumental intelligence success while battling inner demons defined Sorge's Tokyo years. Sorge's intelligence work during these years was not only about collecting information, but also interpreting it in the broader context of global strategy. He communicated to Moscow in 1941 that Hitler's invasion of the Soviet Union was imminent, providing one of the most crucial early warnings of Operation Barbarossa. Unfortunately, Stalin's distrust of the intelligence left the warning largely unheeded, illustrating the precarious nature of espionage, where timing, credibility, and politics could influence outcomes as much as factual accuracy. Similarly, Sorge provided insight into Japanese intentions, clarifying that Japan aimed southward rather than attacking Soviet territories to the north. This intelligence allowed the Soviets to redeploy troops strategically, showcasing Sorge's pivotal role in shaping military decision-making, even from afar. Throughout Part 2, Sorge's meticulous construction of a spy network, management of agents, and acquisition of top-secret intelligence solidified his place as one of history's most effective operatives. His work in Shanghai, Moscow, Berlin, and Tokyo displayed a remarkable combination of courage, intellect, and psychological insight. The overlapping challenges of political upheaval, military aggression, and the constant threat of exposure required a mastery of both craft and character that few spies in history have demonstrated. Sorge's ability to maintain operational security while influencing the course of international events remains a defining example of the high stakes and human complexities inherent to espionage. By 1941, Richard Sorge's network in Tokyo had reached its zenith. The city had become both a home and a battlefield for the most delicate operations he had ever undertaken. Sorge's agents, loyal operatives like Ozaki, Miyagi, and others were now fully embedded within Japanese military, political, and diplomatic circles, providing him with intelligence of unprecedented value. Sorge's own position was precarious. While outwardly functioning as a journalist and political analyst, inwardly he orchestrated the movements of a network that directly affected global strategy. His careful planning, manipulation of contacts, and psychological insight allowed him to gather information that the Soviet Union could scarcely have obtained through conventional means. One of Sorge's final major undertakings was deciphering Japan's strategic intentions in the months leading to the attack on the Soviet Union's far eastern borders. He confirmed that Japan was preparing to move southward, targeting Southeast Asia, rather than striking the Siberian frontier. This intelligence allowed the Soviets to reallocate divisions from the east to the west, preparing for the German invasion with greater security. Sorge's reporting on these movements was not simply descriptive. It included meticulous details on troop positions, planned operations, and the timing of strategic initiatives. His ability to translate complex Japanese planning into actionable Soviet intelligence highlighted his extraordinary analytical skills. The stability of Sorge's network was threatened by internal betrayal. Max Clausen, a double agent whose loyalties were ambiguous, sabotaged communications and delayed crucial messages. Sorge navigated this treachery with precision, adjusting operational protocols and creating redundancies to minimize the damage. The delicate balance between trust and suspicion was a constant pressure. One misjudgment could expose the entire network and result in imprisonment or death. Sorge's understanding of human behavior, combined with his mastery of clandestine techniques, enabled him to sustain his operations under extreme scrutiny from both Japanese authorities and the ever-watchful eyes of Moscow's intelligence apparatus. Despite these precautions, the Japanese authorities ultimately uncovered parts of Sorge's spy ring in late 1941. Arrests of key operatives, including Miyagi and Ozaki, followed a carefully orchestrated investigation by the Kenpei Tai. Sorge himself was apprehended in September 1941, his arrest signaling the collapse of one of the most sophisticated intelligence networks in modern history. The interrogation and legal process that followed were brutal, testing Sorge's resilience and resolve. Yet, even under extreme pressure, he refused to compromise his agents or divulge critical information, demonstrating a steadfast commitment to his mission and to the people who had risked their lives for it. Sorge's execution on November 7, 1944, in Tokyo, marked the tragic end of an extraordinary life. His final years were spent in confinement, where he endured physical and psychological hardship with the same courage and composure that had defined his career. Posthumously, his contributions were initially ignored by the Soviet government, in part due to the political climate and Stalin's personal distrust of independent operatives. It was not until 1964 that Sorge was formally recognized as a hero of the Soviet Union, cementing his legacy as one of the most effective spies of the 20th century. His meticulous reporting, strategic insight, and ability to live a double life under extreme risk remain studied in intelligence circles to this day. Richard Sorge's story is not just one of espionage. It is a lesson in courage, strategy, and human complexity. His life demonstrated the impact a single individual could have on the course of global events through intelligence work. From his early recruitment in Moscow, through operations in Scandinavia, England, Shanghai, Berlin, and Tokyo, Sorge navigated the overlapping pressures of political upheaval, international conflict, and personal sacrifice. His intelligence enabled the Soviet Union to make critical strategic decisions, including the redistribution of forces in anticipation of Operation Barbarossa and the protection of its eastern territories from Japanese aggression. The web of relationships, codes, and operations he maintained illustrates the intricate human and logistical networks that underpin successful espionage. The analysis of Sorge's life highlights several unique aspects of espionage. First, the balance between personal life and operational demands can create psychological strain that affects performance and judgment. Sorge's struggles with excessive drinking and romantic entanglements reveal the human vulnerabilities even the most skilled operatives must navigate. Second, his success relied on the creation of a reliable network of agents who understood their role and maintained loyalty under threat of extreme danger. Third, the impact of intelligence is only realized if it is trusted and acted upon by decision-makers. Sorge's early warnings about Hitler's invasion being ignored underscore how the value of intelligence is intertwined with political perceptions and leadership judgment. Finally, his legacy demonstrates that one individual, operating with skill, discipline, and strategic vision, can influence the trajectory of history in profound ways. Richard Sorge's espionage career is remembered today as a testament to the power of information, the risks inherent to intelligence work, and the personal sacrifices required to protect nations. His life and death serve as reminders of the complex interplay between courage, cunning, and consequence. The dedication he displayed in assembling networks, gathering critical intelligence, and ensuring the safety of his operatives remains a benchmark for intelligence professionals around the world. Disclaimer: this story is based on verified historical records of Richard Sorge's life and espionage activities. All details have been referenced from historical sources and are presented for educational and documentary purposes only. The channel does not endorse, support, or condemn any political or military actions described in this narrative. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Let us know where you're watching from, and stay tuned for more world-class spy stories.